The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Fast am I. Good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. Open line through till 1, so call 66 13 68. Text, email and WhatsApp. Well, the bus station plans have been given a deadline by Timble Court. The debate over the potential for a new bus station in Douglas has reared its head. So when's it going to happen? When was the last time we had a bus station in Douglas? Trying to remember. Anybody got a photo? When was the last time the buses actually pulled into that bus station? Do you remember? Text, email, WhatsApp me a photo. Let's for old time's sake, let's just look at it. And lots of talk yesterday about the tourism offering that we had. Obviously, we've got the Seabourn Sojourn in today. Our cruise liner of the week was another one tomorrow as well. Let's hope the weather improves a bit anyway. Howard's with us now. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. Just a continuation of what we was talking about yesterday, the desecration of the Promenade Gardens. I forgot when reading the news item on your channel that they plan to put a children's playground there, fine, that has been for ages and the children enjoyed it, where the boat and pool used to be. But where did the idea to desecrate numbers 5 and 6, the gardens at the Sefton end? Because one of the quotes from our genius, Devin Watson, who apparently seems to be the spokesman for the town hall, because he's always on chirping about things, what wonders he's going to do, but was that there was going to be a quiet area for people to sit. Now, could you imagine anybody wanting to sit next to a skate park where they're tearing up and down? I've got nothing against skate parks. They're brilliant for the kids, but they've got to be in the right place. With their boom boxes and their graffiti and, of course, the rubbish. So, why was the quiet area a community area built outside the Sefton if they're going to build one on the other side of the road from the Parks Department?
Well, apparently they say that there was a consultation.
When? They're actually on the other news channel, if you one of the other radio stations here on the island, it says they're asking for public opinion now. They've already gone down the road of priced it all up, right, and coming out with a huge figure, another fanciful figure again. But that's not only for the promenade on this end, on the south end. They're talking about doing the part outside, well, apparently where the Queen's Hotel is, etc. Well, that's always, in my mind, always been a grass area for people to relax and just sit and generally just enjoy the views or whatever. Actually, they used to have aircraft taken off from there years ago for round the bay flights. The Daily Mail, they were sponsoring them, but this is all part of the Victorian era. But why desecrate those gardens where people can go and enjoy them? What next? What are they going to start ripping up now? They took out that great big pole in Derby Square because it was supposed to be dangerous, the weather vane, a well-known weather vane that was admired by a lot of people. And then they said, it's a dangerous thing, pole, we're going to replace it anyway. Well, I looked there not so long ago and I can't see anything that's been put back in its place.
What do you think's what's behind this, Howard?
I don't know. The council as a whole are very quiet. They just come up with these harebrained schemes. They're cutting the staff. I know the lads is going around cutting the grass in all the estates, etc. They've had their numbers reduced drastically. And of course, with all these new houses going up, there's the inevitable borders around them, and the council are adopting these, but they're not bringing in the staff to cope with it. Up in Douglas Head, they have 5 areas around where they have to nominate for the green flag. Douglas Head is one of them. Hutchison Square, the golf course, for God's sake. And I don't know the problem, I can't remember them offhand, but when they do enter for this competition, they've got to nominate the 5 areas. And if you look, Douglas Head, out your window, is neat and tidy, until you come to just before the camera obscura where it stops, and it's like another world on the other side of that fuchsia hedge, and where the people are walking up through to go round the back of the lighthouse walk, etc. It's not cleaned up. It's never weeded. And there's one part of that path there that's only a foot wide now, and people have got to go in single file. And if you ask anybody, oh, that's the DOI, then they ask the DOI, and they say that's the corporation. So they're all book passing. But this thing on the promenade is absolutely disgusting, and they should be stopped in their tracks now, because if they've gone up to $1.25 million, what's it going to do? What are they going to do? They're going to knock the walls down, because if you put a skate park in either 5 or 6, you can't afford to have stone walls there where they're going to crash into. So are they going to flatten the area and fill it in? You know, it makes you wonder just what was going through their minds when this was discussed at council.
I just wonder, and obviously any member of Douglas Council is more than welcome to come on Mannin Line at any time and talk about it. They're more than welcome.
They won't, because they'll commit themselves to whatever they are discussing in council.
But Howard, this is our capital. This is the capital of the Isle of Man. It's not just Douglas Council. They don't own Douglas. They just happen to be the people who have voted in to look after it. The people there now think they do, and they're becoming dictatorial. It's becoming ridiculous. The people that used to go down for the council, put their names forward for the council. I could give you a few horrific stories about that. They will go down, and they were welcoming Douglas. They actually built Douglas up to what it is today. This other lot seems to be like taking a Lego kit to pieces and throwing them all away. Well, at the moment, I mean, I've got plenty of feedback from when we were talking about this yesterday. And really the kind of upshot, if I take all the swear words out of it, it was, they seem intent on saving the world. They've halved the dustbin collection. They got rid of the festoon lights. And now they're going to turn what were wonderful gardens, relaxing gardens, into a play park. Now, unless they've got a compelling reason for that, and I've not heard it, I mean, they've not come and said why it's actually happening, then you wonder, it's public money. These are politicians who get hired in by the public. So you just wonder what their vision is for Douglas.
They're borrowing a big part of the money. They talk $1.25 million. It's a serious amount of money that could be spent elsewhere, tidying the town. Tidying Douglas up. I reluctantly call it the city, because it hasn't earned that. It's some ego trip that somebody's got again within the council, and the whole area needs seeing, not just there. And those, I'll take that word back that you said, were an enchanting area. They are. And people can go and sit there and enjoy just peace and quiet. Yeah. I know there's people say you can hear the silence. And if you've got a skate park there with the young fellas going up and down, tearing up and down, the noise is going to be unbelievable. And then there's a graffiti, as I say, in the rubbish. Plus, they're going to take their boom boxes down, and you're not going to get a minute's peace. And you get a perfectly adequate thing that it cost, I don't know, Sefton's supposed to have put $77,000 into that quiet area in front of their building. what's wrong with that being used as a quiet area and keep the gardens as they are? So, you wonder at the mentality of the Douglas Corporation at times.
Well, I'm sure they mean well.
Well, sometimes I wonder. I beg to differ on that, because they seem to have this stupid agenda of destroying everything. And even when you were saying about, it was my idea that yesterday, I don't know whether it's part and parcel of it, eventually they'll put the horse trams on the inside on the walkway to go through to the sea terminal. But if you remember when the plans were envisaged for the promenade regeneration, it was suggested to put the horse trams on the walkway. And the government turned around and said they can't do that because of the weight and the vibration is going to damage the tanks that are under the walkway at the Villiers end. So if that is mooted and it's anywhere in the idea, I'd love to be able to get down to the town hall. I haven't got time today to get the minutes of the meeting and to see who signed it off and whose suggestion it was and who actually voted for it, because that will be in the minutes now. I can't do it on internet at the moment, but it'd be interesting to see whose suggestion this was, because in one breath they're advocating environment, green environment, and keeping everything for the bees. They've got some lovely plots around now, all in flower. Excellent. And there they are, wanting to destroy an equal amount of plots down on the promenade that a lot more people can enjoy for some vanity. Because I can remember, as I say, I started work in the corporation in 1959, and those gardens were a credit to the council. But I believe we now have a new head of parks department. I don't know who she is, I've never met her. But that boating pool was purpose-built for it, and eventually that was taken away, and a little park was put in there for the children. Good, a safe park, but it's taken them 2 years to put the walls up and then come up with this harebrained scheme. So somebody wants chastising.
Okay, all right, Howard, we appreciate that. Thanks for calling.
Take care, bye now.
Good to hear from you. And if you want to get in touch, by the way, if the Douglas councillors would be free to take some feedback, all you need to do is go to douglas.gov.im. That's douglas.gov.im. It'll take you to their webpage. Simply go to the drop-down called The Council, click on Councillors, and there all the councillors are with their mobile phone numbers and their email addresses if you'd like to contact the Worshipful the Mayor, Natalie Byron-Tier, the leader of the council, Claire Wells, also Stephen Pitts, John Skinner's there as well, Andrew Bentley, Ian Clegg, Devon Watson, Janet Tominey, Falk Horning, Peter Washington, Stephen Krellin, Frank Schwengel. Just go to douglas.gov.im and you can get in touch if you've got anything you'd like to say to them regarding the plans for the promenade. Robert's on now. Hi, Robert.
Hello, how are you? I'd just like to discuss the elephant in the room.
Which is?
Well, basically, there's nowhere to sit in either South or North Douglas when it rains. There's only like these epoxy bus shelters that have slanty seats, and let's say you do want a cigarette or you do want just to mooch around and have a bit of a play on your MP3 player, whatever it is.
So is this? Are you talking about bus stops or shelters in general?
I'm talking about shelters in general. Do you remember they used to have them where you used to sit down? I think they've got them in Peel, don't they, on the promenade where you sit down and you kind of relax.
And in Ramsey as well, on the Murrock. There's some lovely ones in Ramsey.
Really, when it rains, what do you do? So it'd be nice if they could accommodate, if Douglas Corporation could accommodate that idea into any future plans, because at the moment, when it rains, and it does rain, and it is going to come, a storm is going to come, then there's nowhere to sit.
That's an interesting point. I'm trying to think. From the top end, from Derby Castle through to down to the Villiers by the bottleneck, I can't think of a covered. There's nowhere. There are some shelters, but you have to stand up.
That's right, and that's exactly right. And I think in terms of South Douglas, it's purposely civil engineered to stop people getting off the boats and having a bit of a sleep before they, approach their new job or have an interview or whatever it is on the benches. They purposely got it engineered so that it's the most awkward, awful seating in existence. I think it's called, it's not violent furniture or something like that, but it's some type of engineering term that they use to say that it's non-aesthetic.
Yeah, it's designed to be uncomfortable after a certain time, I think.
Yeah, it's one of those strange words they use, terms they use, isn't it? But it's very unappealing to people of South Douglas, and I believe that it was the Douglas 2000 project who set up most of Douglas with the totem poles and the idea of that seating down near where the work cafe is now and stuff like that. I think it was their dream, their wet dream to do all of that, to be honest with you.
And 24 years on, we got nowhere to sit.
Well, that's just, what are you going to do? What are you supposed to do? Come on, get on with it.
All right, Robert, thanks for calling today. We appreciate that. As I mentioned, the ones at the Murrock Prom in Ramsey, they're gorgeous. They are little works of art. Somewhere to sit undercover when it rains. Tony's on now. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Andy. How you doing?
Very well today. Thanks. Shame about the weather for the cruise ship.
Well, if we had a tram or some steam trains running, it'd be fine to be inside, wouldn't they?
Yes.
Or they could sit in a bus shelter, couldn't they?
Yes.
We should advertise the bus shelters as safe areas or something like that, because, what else were we going to call them? Anyway, what I called for wasn't to criticise anything, but I just wonder if anybody in the Douglas City Council have got any brains, or if they're just not putting them in gear. I listened to, I can't remember who it was because I've got short-term memory loss, but there you go. He was saying that why are you going to rip up all the gardens, the sunken gardens and everything, to put a skate park in?
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. When down the other end of the prom, you have a piece of waste ground that needs something on it. And a skate park and a children's playground would be an admirable thing to put in there. And that way you would redevelop something instead of ripping something up and putting it back down again. I just give up. How can we spend some more money we haven't got?
Do you think, let me put this to you then, do you think that the concept, the old-fashioned Victorian concept and early 20th century concept of having these beautifully laid out gardens, perfectly tended with pretty flowers, is that a redundant concept anymore, or do you think there's space for it nowadays?
Well, if you think about it, all of the seafront is for, basically, on that end, is all for basically guest houses, hotels, and if anybody's coming to the island and staying in Douglas, that's probably the rough area they're going to be staying. So it's a lovely place to go and say, oh, there's these beautiful gardens they've got here. There are other cities in the UK have got exactly the same thing. They have areas where people who are visiting can go and sit and enjoy the flowers, go and enjoy the views. Okay, not in the winter, but in the summer they can certainly do it. But we don't seem to want to do that. What we want to do is put a skate park in where you shouldn't have one. Where's all the kids in Douglas? Where do they all live? They don't live down there behind the guest houses. That's the main street. So they don't live in the main street. They'll be up the other end of town. So it would make sense that you would put the thing for them to play in, a playground and a skate park, could easily go on Summerland, on where it was. And it would be a dedication instead of sticking 11-storey buildings on it, which are looking out to sea and are going to be sold for millions because they've got a view. I just think city councils are just appalling things because they don't listen to anybody and they don't really take any notice of anybody. They say they're going to do something and then ask everybody, what do you reckon to this idea? What are you going to do with them? They're appalling. is what they are. They should come forward with a regeneration plan, which would include number one on the top of the list. What are they going to do about something that's been derelict for how many years? 50? 60?
Which is that?
Summerland.
Oh, crikey. It's is it 15 odd years since they knocked down the second Summerland?
Well, they knocked. There was a swimming pool in there, right? So that's gone. I think that was the last thing on the site. So, 15 years, and they haven't done anything with it?
No, they've all. There have been plans to put stuff up there, but they didn't want apartments. I think somebody wanted to put a leisure club with apartments on top, and they knocked that back.
Well, I'm not surprised, but instead of knocking things back, what they could do is be proactive and say, we've got this wonderful idea for a children's area, and we'll dedicate it to the people who died, and put a big sign up there and say this skate park is for your enjoyment, and the people that died here will be happy to know that you're on here playing. Not go and destroy something that they don't like, because that's what's wrong. Somebody in the government, in the city council, just doesn't like the idea that you should have these gardens.
Do you think it's that simple, that somebody there thinks gardens aren't what we should have?
I don't think they've got a clue what they're doing, so they just grasp ideas that somebody throws out. I don't think there's any plan or idea of what they should be doing, because I don't think they do have a plan or idea, just like the government. There's no leadership in any of this. It's hopeless.
Okay, all right. We appreciate that, Tony.
Suggestion there. We'll see what they say.
Thanks for that. Good to hear from you. Thank you, Tony. Plans have been revealed for £1.4 million worth of refurbishment of Douglas Council's sunken gardens. Well, they're not theirs, they're ours. They just happen to run them. The local authority is looking to refurbish Marine Gardens 4, 5 and 6, which will consist of a children's play area, a skate park, an open space with seating. Our local democracy reporter Emma Draper spoke to Councillor Devon Watson.
The Douglas Council does budget for parks and play facilities. This is paid for out of rates, and this is not financed all in one big bang. This is financed over a period of years, so this cost will be smoothed. Additionally, it's also worth investing in our community, and it's also worth investing in these facilities that children and young families are going to be using.
And do your councillors agree that it's worth spending £1.4 million on this scheme?
Yeah, 100%. I know that there's been a lot of controversy over the problem over the past few years. So one thing I do want to make clear is that the council does not handle direct infrastructure with regards to the paving or a lot of the parking around there or the horse trams or anything. But what we do invest in are facilities, and particularly facilities that families use. Raising a family can be particularly expensive. So having facilities such as playgrounds that young people, teenagers and families with kids can use free of charge, that are high quality and are within town, near the community, are absolutely essential. It's 100% worth it to invest in these facilities, not only for Douglas, but for the island as a whole.
Within the plans, what mitigations are the council putting in the designs, like seawater repellent materials, putting any extra walls to prevent damage? Because as we know, the seawall that the DOI are putting in is only from the War Memorial to the Empress Hotel, which doesn't cover either of the sections of the sunken gardens that you guys are planning to refurbish.
So at the same time, we are also investing in sea defences. At the same time, we are working with companies that specialise in creating play equipment in coastal communities. So these have been thought of and these plans have been incorporated into this. The problem can be an area that does flood, and as such, these designs need to incorporate that and be future-proof and be adapted to ensure that they do work.
Devon Watson from Douglas City Council. Have you got any thoughts on this? I've got lots of messages in which I'll get to in just a few moments' time, but David's first with us. Hi, David.
Hi, Randy. I just want to talk about, if I can, about Ørsted and the little pamphlet that was circulated around the island.
Yeah.
It's only 9, 10 pages long, but what a positive solution to help us with our energy crisis on the island.
Oh, you mean Ørsted, not Ofsted. Ørsted.
Ørsted.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably a play on words so they can get some kudos, but all those 11 pages are positive about linking with the Isle of Man, being part of the energy department here, the MEA, which used to be there. The only thing it doesn't tell me is is where the location, it shows you a little map on page 3 there, but it doesn't tell me how much is that out to sea, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
But it also includes on page 6 with the cable coming into the Isle of Man and being used and a partnership there. So why? I wonder how many politicians out of the 24 we've got, and MLCs as well, we'll include them as well, have actually been there. And I would encourage people. The first one today is at Laxey, isn't it, in the gardens there?
Yeah.
So I'm going to be popping along to find out what's going on and maybe give some positive views.
I just wonder, has anybody said how much we're going to make out of this?
No, but it does indicate to like partnership in conjunction with. So the words are, as I would say from this multinational company there, is if we partnership up with the Isle of Man people and the Isle of Man government, you'll get something out of it. And that's up to the politicians to make sure when the contract's awarded, there's no loopholes.
Well, let's hope so.
Right, and I presume a Manx Radio reporter will be there at the first one.
Well, whereabouts is it? When is it? I haven't delivered it. I haven't got one of those leaflets. When were they out?
No, they've been all out for a little while now. Actually, it was drawn to my attention when I went to a sheltered unit the other day, and they were all dumped, about 10 of them in the hallway. They never went to the apartments because I presume the fellow wasn't going to go around all 20 apartments and throw them through the door.
Yeah.
But it definitely says today, and it was on your radio, that's happening at Laxey this afternoon between 2 and I think it was 6 or 7 o'clock tonight.
Okay, all right. Well, everybody knows now. Thanks for that, David.
See you, boy. Bye-bye.
All right, good to hear from you. Thanks for that. If you're off to Laxey this afternoon, then do have a good time. Howard's right. There's already a skate park, says Malcolm in Nobles Park's hardly used. It's a waste of money. Disgrace for Douglas City Council to fritter away this huge amount of money. Really makes you wonder what's going on. Remember, half of it's debt. £700,000 they're borrowing. Has government earmarked the resources to service the new school being built along with 300 new homes? This is at Braddon. They didn't earmark resources to run Summerhill Views. And Crystal says, fix what's already broken, not more diddly ideas. Crystal's word. The actions of our government are ruining the lives of people, destroying the Isle of Man. I don't understand how they can be allowed to continue with these agendas, schemes and scams, which aren't good for us. They're just lining somebody's pockets along the way. Something needs to change as soon as possible. Well, obviously, they'll have to hire somebody to do it. You just wonder whether this is Douglas Council's idea or whether some big company that does this has pitched them to say this is what you need. The only way there's going to be a new bus station in Douglas is if it comes free, gifted with apartments, says Franny Francis and Frankie. Juan says, if the Moor Mannin wind farm is going to supply power to the Isle of Man, why does the government want to spoil one of the best natural views on the island by building wind turbines at Erie Staine? Says Juan. Thanks to Janet as well, who said, I couldn't get through the other day when Jed Powell was on, but really somebody should have brought up the fact that if we're going to stick 5 wind turbines in the south of the Isle of Man, it is going to ruin the view. I mean, there will be a view, it just won't be the view that we have at the moment. So, really, if a lot of people who come to the Isle of Man like the natural appearance of the landscape, it's going to be fundamentally changed. Now, it may be for the greater good, and some people say it is for the greater good of the Isle of Man, but it is going to change it. I mean, these things are huge, ginormous. Cliff says, think of the visitors staying in the hotels, having to listen to skateboards going up and down, shouting, screaming. They wouldn't be happy paying good money to stay there, says Cliff. Neil and Douglas, 1.4 million would go a long way to repairing the substandard housing stock that the council charges rent for. Any more thoughts on this and anything else? By all means, do get in touch. Just listen to the show. I'd like to ask Douglas Council, how much is the repayment of the proposed loan going to be to the ratepayers of Douglas? What term is it? How long is the loan? They say the costs are stretched. They can't afford to maintain services, but they can afford a loan, says Hilary C. Thanks, Hilary. As far as the bus stop's concerned, why are they continuing to call for a bus terminal in central Douglas? Lord Street's no longer the terminus, more it's a put down and pick up location. All that's short of are public toilets in the location, as are most of the times of the buses can be tracked online on Find My Bus. More important matters to consider, says Derek. Still, we don't have those dot matrix boards, which aren't expensive at all. Those dot matrix boards that say, bus number so-and-so coming in 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, it's here. The technology's there, they don't cost a fortune, and should we really have to do that nowadays? So what do you think of this Douglas Council project on the Promenade? In not so many words, Alf Cannon seems to suggest the other day that we'll be paying higher standing charges for our future cheap electricity, says G. Why would somebody think, says 500, destroying a beautiful, tranquil garden and replacing them with a skate park is a good idea? Tony's suggestion of locating the skate park at Summerland appears the perfect plan. Really, I think we should protest just like we did when that Elm Tunnel in St Mark's was threatened with being removed. Power to the people, says 500. Please don't remove the sunken gardens. Improve the children's play area. Yes, that's fine, but do the kiosk up as well. There's a nice big seating area outside the Gaiety Theatre. There is, but is it undercover? Braddon had a fantastic skate park that's never mentioned. I've only ever seen a couple of kids on picnic benches. It's got everything other than people, says Paul. Here's a message in from Jane. Thank you, Jane, who just said, if Douglas Council are going to treat Douglas Promenade the way they treat Nobles Park, have you seen the play area in Nobles Parks? Rusting. Absolutely rusting. Some of that children's play furniture is bordering on dangerous, she says. And regarding the seawall that's being put up by the Empress, a message in from Mel. Thank you, Mel, who just said, well, the seawall's there to stop stuff washing onto the prom. All that's going to happen is it's going to build up on the other side of the seawall and eventually come over the seawall. What then? An extension. A message about the airport. I got a note in from Norman. Thank you, Norman, who just said, what's happening at the departure lounge in Ronaldsway? I heard something on Manx Radio. Well, they say the departure lounge at Ronaldsway is going to get an upgrade, subject to agreements being signed. The update comes after people took to social media to comment on the conditions. Posters highlighting the dirty, stained and ripped chairs in the departure lounge described them as embarrassing. Gary Cobb, the airport director, told Manx Radio the airport's been aware for some time that certain areas are not in optimal condition. He went on to say that funding's been a significant issue, no money, as any available money has been required to maintain safety critical areas of the airport to ensure it remains open and operational. Consequently, other areas such as customer experience have suffered. However, Mr. Cobb added the airport's now secured a solution for the departure lounge and they hope to announce it soon. They're buying new sofas, you would imagine, and cleaning the carpet. That's what's called a solution for the departure lounge. The Camera Obscura is open on Saturdays and Sundays. Thank you, Ruth, dependent on the weather. Run by volunteers of the Alaman Victorian Society. Can you put me in touch with Jed Power? I'll give him details of our opening times. Certainly will, Ruth. We'll put you on then, and I've no doubt lots of people do go to the Camera Obscura, weather permitting, of course. £900 for a motorhome on a boat. says this texter. My friend filled his motorhome with fuel, drove to the south of France, paid for a campsite electric hookup and the tunnel there and back, and saved money. Why would anybody come to the Isle of Man when the steam packet want £900 return for a motorhome? I used to go to the UK 6 to 8 times a year. I go once now because of the costs. Last week, £340 return with my car. I went as a foot passenger, got 5 taxis from Liverpool to Manchester and Chester, and it was still cheaper than taking my car. Thanks for that. And also, John, regarding tourism. The tourism people produce a 72-page one-stop guide, which is information overload for most visitors. What's needed is a simple leaflet listing the island's top couple of dozen must-see places, Murrock Park and places like that. Such leaflets are produced for holiday regions elsewhere. And if the government's short of money, why does M&H produce a thick 32-page booklet for their site? English Heritage could provide such information in a much less costly leaflet. How can we ensure that visitors, especially first-timers, see what's worth seeing and don't go home disappointed, says John. Well, obviously, we've got visitors today because they've come off the cruise ship. We welcome them. It'll be interesting to see what they're up to today regarding with the weather as it is, but I'm sure our guides will be doing a first-class job. Juan's with us now. Hi, Juan.
Well, different day today, Andy, than yesterday, isn't it?
Crikey, I know. I got burnt to a crisp at Balacrega yesterday.
Well, I was sat on the beach at Peel yesterday. It was glorious. It was a lovely afternoon. And then, of course, the plane started coming over about tea time, but we put that to bed a while ago, didn't we? So that's not the truth, is it? So I just going past the promenade. I just pulled in to watch them put the first bit of concrete in there. So the concrete's going in around the metal posts there for the seawall. So they've actually started the finishing.
How high is it going to be?
Well, it's basically a similar height to the trial piece that they put in by the War Memorial,
right,
which I think failed. I think it failed the plan in that one, and they've had to revamp it and put more metalwork in. But it is going to make a big visual difference when you're walking along. Obviously, you can see over it, but it is going to make a visual difference. And I think looking out to sea, that you're not going to be able to see the tide rolling in as such. You're going to be able to see the sea, but not the tide rolling in. But I still can't grasp the facts. I mean, I look at sea walls everywhere, and of course, around the coast of Florida, they have a massive big, tides coming in and out there, especially when it's hurricane season. And these sea walls, like our sea wall, is designed to throw the tide back. It bounces against it. You've got the curve at the top, and it rolls back. And I've seen brand new sea walls being built over in Florida because of the high tides and the hurricanes they've got. And it's still the basic same design as what the Victorians did with our one. So it still begs the question of why didn't they just take the level down? If you look at the level from the top of the sand down to the bottom, you've got to be a 10 to 12 foot rise. It still begs the question of why that sand wasn't taken away and used, the stone taken away and used, the seaweed taken away and used, and the seawall would then surely be able to do the job that it was actually put up for, to bounce the water back, to turn it over and bounce it back. And that surely was the basic principle of every seawall.
Nobody said, did they?
It just bemuses me. And then, what Howard's saying about the sunken gardens, they're borrowing money to change something which is kind of working okay. And has there been any name put into who's actually signed this off, or who's agreed to it, or who put the policy forward to put this skate park there?
No.
Has anyone put a name to it? No name.
Apparently they're all behind it, though.
They're all they're all behind it. Yeah, and it bemuses me. And I think Devon Watson's name was put up before there. And I've been to a few meetings where Devon has been talking. Bless him. I think if he came on your show, I think the excuse would be, well, he's been to a Take That concert the night before. It just beggars belief. Everyone's saying the same thing on this program, aren't they? Tony's saying it, and everyone's saying the same thing. We're scratching our heads going, what's going on here? And I think you mentioned this the other day, Andy. out of all the people that are in there, how many businessmen are actually in politics at the moment? How many people are used to counting beans properly and making a living out of something and knowing how to, appropriate money like it was their own, rather than just wasting it willfully? How many people have we got in there that are business people?
But the thing is, Jewett, these people stood for office and they were voted in. They've got a public mandate. And and we get the politicians we deserve. If you're saying that these aren't competent politicians, then the public has voted for them. So it's up to somebody else to stand. There's no point standing at the side and pointing and saying they're not right if other people don't stand. It's as simple as that. They've got a public mandate. People voted for them, and so they've got a right to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you to a certain extent, but this little thing from the old world, pre-COVID comes into play, which is common sense, and just common sense alone says that we should be more careful with spending money. Spend it like it's coming out of your own pocket, rather than it's just coming out of a bottomless pit, because that bottomless pit is now gone. So just a little bit of common sense, Andy, but beside anything else.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Stuart.
Cheers, Andy.
Bye. It's 14 minutes before 1. Mannin Line this Thursday lunchtime from the Isle of Man.
We interrupt this broadcast to inform all our listeners about the huge range of bathrooms and showers on display at Pacesetter. Yes, you all know that Pacesetter is known as the island's largest tile store, but I'm here to tell you that their bathroom displays are truly inspirational. Visit Pacesetter on Harris Terrace, where you'll discover a fabulous collection of stylish bathrooms. There's something to suit everyone, with design available. Pacesetter bathrooms and showers to show off about.
The extended Ramsey Garden Centre is deceptively large. You'll find a warm welcome and everything from bedding and perennials, fruit and vegetables to lighting, garden ornaments, bird baths, bird tables and indoor and outdoor pots. Come and browse at Ramsey Garden Centre.
Imagine a future where the Isle of Man is powered by the very wind that shapes our shores. Ørsted are a global leader in renewable energy and are bringing more Mannin, the island's first offshore wind farm, to life. This week, come along to one of the public consultation events on Thursday the 18th of July at Laxey Glen Pavilion and on Friday the 19th at Ramsey Court House between 2 and 7 p.m. Find out more by visiting ørsted.im. Let's create a world that runs entirely on green energy.
Experience a true celebration of island life where farming comes first at the 2024 Southern Agricultural Show. With 2 full days of local entertainment, livestock exhibits, local traders and more, it's sure to be a fun-filled day out for all the family. And we're right on the bus route, so you can leave the car at home. The Southern Agricultural Show, the local show, Saturday the 27th and Sunday the 28th of July at Ørsted Farm, Ballasalla. Open from 9:30am to 6pm both days, and kids go free. Visit southernshow.org or find us on Facebook for more information. It's a show not to be missed. The Southern Agricultural Show with your nation station, Manx Radio.
Craving a blast from the past? Join me, Ruth Schillen, for the 80s mixtape and relive the magic of the ultimate decade. From synth pop to rock anthems, I've got the lot right here every Sunday from 10 on your Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
12 minutes before 1. Why is there no waiting room for bus passengers at Ronaldsway, says Keith Kay, regarding the tourists. If you've ever waited for a bus when there's lots of people there's just no space inside. And if it's raining, you just get wet. So why is that? Why isn't there a bus passenger waiting room actually inside? Then hardly short a room inside Ronaldsway. Thank you for that. And regarding the scooters, we mentioned the scooters the other day when Jed was on. The scooter rallies have created a lot of positive online and in-print publicity for the Isle of Man, says Alex. Over 600 scooters coming over to the Isle of Man for the rally and the Grand Manx Tootle. It'd be great to have some government support to bring back the old scooter week with a week full of events. How can the corporation spend thousands of pounds on signage for keeping dogs on a leash and no fouling signs in Nobles Park and Douglas Head when dog owners completely ignore the signs, knowing they're not going to get fined? So you spend money on signs that you don't enforce, that if you enforced, you'd make money out of. Dog fouling is out of control, says Pat on 223. Well, it has been for a while. I mean, Manx Radio is at the top of Douglas Head here, and round the corner is Marine Drive. It's not known as Latrine Drive for no reason. Adam's with us now. Hi, Adam.
Hi, Andy. All right.
Good, thanks. Yeah, what's on your mind?
Good. I'd just like to talk about the Island Games.
Yeah.
That's coming here in 2029. The Island government published a really good press release about how the bids committee successfully won the bid for the Isle of Man to host the games here in 2029. It's really good. I've taken part in a couple of games, and I was fortunate enough to be Island captain in Rhodes in 2007, and it was great, really good, positive experience. My only thing is, though, the logo, which has been designed to represent the island. I don't know if you've seen it, but the Department of Sport and Education released a press release about how they were happy to welcome everyone to the island. But if you look at the logo that's been designed, I sent it in just before. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it.
What did you send it in on? Was it email or WhatsApp?
On WhatsApp, yeah.
Okay, I'll take a look.
Okay. Now, I don't know if any of the listeners have seen it yet, but this is the logo that's going to be, that's representing our island. It's going to be printed on posters, on logos, on team kits, on programs, on tickets. It's going to be all on websites throughout the world. It's going to be, everyone's going to be looking at it. And if you look at the logo, they've got the Manx tartan colours in there, which is fantastic. Now they've got I'm not sure if it's a 3 legs or a triskelin, or not too sure what it is, but whatever it is, it's not the right way, and it's not positioned correctly, which is only half the issue. The main issue I have, and quite a lot of other people, is the tagline which they've used. And the tagline, if for anyone who hasn't seen it, is "It's coming home." Now, if you speak to people, ask people, what does that mean? What does it mean to you? Oh, it's coming home. Most people are going to associate the phrase "it's coming home" with English football team.
Yeah.
And please, this for 1 second, this isn't an anti-English rant. This is a pro-Isle of Man rant. And I just think whichever governing body, whichever minister, whichever association, whoever designed this logo, and it's not the person who designed the logo, they work to the brief. It's who they put the logo in front of. And those people, I just cannot understand how the people who come to the decision to say that this is a logo that's going to be front-facing, that's going to represent all our island, that's going to represent all our team members, it's going to represent our coaches, it's going to represent the island as a whole, and what it stands for the strapline or the tagline, "It's coming home." How on earth they've just come to the decision that is acceptable and the best use of the way to promote the island?
As you say, I mean, in sporting terms, "It's coming home" means that. Frank Skinner, doesn't it? You know.
Yeah, it does. And I haven't got the answer what to put there, but it certainly shouldn't be "It's coming home," because it's the only thing I can think of, unless they're using a very tenuous link, "It's coming home," because we hosted the first games in 85.
Yeah, well, we started them, didn't we?
Yeah. But I think that's lost in translation. I think the amount of people that would know that, unless you're actually in the games, you probably wouldn't. And
that's a very good point. I mean, it's obvious to everybody who was involved in the Island Games back then, but that was years and years ago.
Yeah, and a deeper thing concerning this, I've asked a few designers who are on the Isle of Man kind of tender portal, did they receive an email to tender for this logo? And I've asked 3 of them who are on the tender system, the Isle of Man government tender system, and none of them received an email to put their bid in, to put their penny's worth in of what they should do. So I just like to know who designed it. Was it a government department or a person inside? If it was, that's fine, but shouldn't we have gone out if something as important as this?
Yeah.
We've just stolen an English football team's logo, slapped it on 3 legs, that'll do, and that's now what's going to represent our island. I think it's a real missed opportunity, and the people who think that's acceptable to do that, I would question, are they the right people to be making those decisions, whether it's ministerial, whether it's officer level, whether it's civil service, or maybe it's just someone in the Island Games Association. I don't know, but I think us as a nation, we should be embarrassed if this is what's going out front facing. Okay. I think anyone who wears this, and most people will maybe think I'm overreacting or whatever, but I think to have the phrase "it's coming home," it feels like we're just jumping on the bandwagon of the. I think it feels like it's been rushed through, and we're latching on to eyeballs through the football event that's just been on.
All right. Well, we appreciate that, Robert, and be as emotional as you want about it. That's absolutely fine. Shows you mean it. All right.
Thanks very much.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. Well, 2029, thousands of athletes from all over the world will be coming to the Isle of Man for the Island Games. Coaches, families, friends, all here. Take a look at that logo, see what you think. Does "It's Coming Home," is that our saying, or does it just echo that England football song? You got any thoughts? Text, email, call and WhatsApp. Lots of messages to get to. Haven't got through to everybody today. Great to see Ramsey Commissioners are going to introduce a ruinous buildings register. So Douglas, same as Douglas, for all these dilapidated houses, be they occupied or not, are destroying every street on the Isle of Man. There's always one lazy occupant on every street who can afford to keep up with repairs or remove their rubbish, but don't care how it looks for their neighbours. If other commissioners, especially Garth, were made to do the same, we might get somewhere. Says WhatsApper 134. Just start by doubling their rates and you'll see how quickly they run and buy a tin of paint. That's it. Gotta go. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today. The answer phone 682-631 or email manninline@manxradio.com. Returns tomorrow with an open line at high noon.
WINT. Radio Caroline North broadcast from the MV Caroline in Ramsey Bay from 1964 to 1968. And across the first weekend in August, Ramsey's back in the 60s with vintage vehicles and live 60s music. And on Saturday, the second and evening of the illustrated history of Caroline North and South with historians Andy Wint and Ray Clark, when the original Caroline Bell will be displayed. Tickets for the evening are £10, available at manxradio.com, and all proceeds go to support the Ross Revenge Dry Dog Appeal charity. The Caroline North weekend is August the 2nd to 4th with Radio Caroline, Live at Home and Manx Radio.